Hello, and welcome back to this series all about the lessons that I learned in 2025 and the intentions I am setting for 2026. Now, if you saw parts 4 and 5, you will know we are talking about money and we are doing exactly that in this part 6. So if you haven't watched those episodes and you want to go a little bit more deeper, do go back. Otherwise, let's get going. So what my next point is, I want to talk about the energy of pricing. And pricing is, as I'm sure you know, it's more than the numbers. It's to do with the integrity, how it feels when you sell, the reciprocity, how it feels when you're in conversation about that, what that pricing means in terms of the commitment from you and the commitment of your client. And time again, I am always not baffled, but it constantly surprises me because I know this feeling because I've done it myself. I have been this customer. So many people will say to me, I am not going to do this unless I pay somebody to help me. Because there is something about that stand for themselves where they say yes and they put down cash. That sense of putting down cash, blocking out time in the diary, exchanging details, logistics with another human being, aka becoming accountable, that is the thing that's going to make them do it. That's why celebrities have trainers that fly all around the world, because it's that sense that somebody is going to knock on the door, no matter where they are, no matter how jet lagged they are, and go, hi, we're going to train today. So what I want you to think about in terms of your selling, in terms of your packages and what you're offering, is how are you holding space for that person to get a result? I think that there is this worry sometimes because remember, certainly as women, we're quite new to the money conversation, so it seems. Not many people wanted us to join, but we are here right now. That's another story for another time. But when I think about selling, I am always thinking about the ROI. What is this person going to get? And because I've been doing this for 15 years, I know what that ROI is because I have worked with many of my clients again and again and again, and they've come back to work with me and I know about their lives and they did that thing and they started their business and they got that speaking gig and they built their content so they were offered that book deal. Like there are so many of those stories. And so when I am thinking about the pricing, I am always thinking about the space that we are creating for creation. It's not just you show up for an hour and I give you an hour of your time. It's that energetic sense. And sometimes we cannot just think in terms of hourly rates. We have to think about where we're going, what this project is going to do next. The next part that I want to share is that money is not the only currency, you know. When we came back from our Airbnb over Christmas, we got the train back into London. And actually, both of my kids get really bad car sickness. So if we can get on a train, we absolutely will. Even though sometimes you're like, why am I carrying this heavy bag? But anyway, we live really near the tube. Our part of North London is really easily accessible and it all worked brilliantly. When we got on the tube, there was a diversion. So it stopped in the middle of the line and we all had to get off at, I think, King's Cross. And I got chatting to this guy because he asked me for help and he was trying to get to Stansted Airport and he'd come from Liverpool that day. So he'd come in south into London and then he needed to go out to Tottenham Hale, then get the Stansted Express and then get a flight. And I think he was going to Iran. And he said, I debated getting a car from King's Cross to Stansted, and I wish I'd done that now, because every time I use the tube, it doesn't work for me. And he actually said the words, oh, because like I can do that. And it really made me think that in terms of the currency, actually, he needed to get on his flight. He needed to be able to get from A to B. He didn't want to be going to a tube station in the middle of nowhere where he didn't know, to get on a random bus to get to Tottenham Hale to hope the Stansted Express was there. I want you to think about your pricing in that way. And I want you to think about the other currencies aside from money. That ease, that reliability, that accountability, that sense that everything is being curated and pulled together. I think especially as women, we are too fixated on being accessible price-wise. And the truth of it is, there are people who have money to spend. There are people who have private chefs. There are people who have drivers. There are people who have stylists who come over 3 times a year and they put together outfits for somebody. There are people who hire cleaners. Like, there are so many different ways people get support. So don't just fixate on your pricing in this next year, because there are so many other pieces of the puzzle. Number 9, I'm going to call it, because I had this conversation with myself too. I think your money goals are too small, because when I set mine were too small as well. And I really was just in that frame of mind. I don't know if it was a day I was having. I was just really underestimating myself. What I was doing with those money goals was I was being polite. I wasn't being too much. I wasn't having that sense of command of going, yeah, I'm the kind of person who earns this kind of money. I was playing it safe. And it's really easy to do. It's really easy to command that identity because of what we've been taught. We've been taught to share everything, to be polite, to not be too career orientated or ambitious, especially if we've got children, because, you know, if we are too ambitious, like, the children are going to suffer, and all of these things. And often these narratives are said to people who are not living in my house. They don't see the kind of parent that I am. And I am telling you this now. I am a better parent when I earn more money. When I work all the time, maybe not. But when I have more disposable income, safety, nervous regulation, I am a better parent. And I intend to build my income year on year to be able to do the things that I want to do and be the person that I want to be and create that family. And I know that for many, many years, I got myself into a mindset of believing that I could just have the crumbs. And that is a long therapy session for another day. But I'm just sharing that as a prompt for you today to look at. Where is your goal naturally? Like, where's it sitting when you talk about money? And also, what do you actually want it to be? What would feel really good? What would give you choice? What would give you a sense of regulation? I would love to know. Finally, following on from this, I am a parent to 2 kids, 6 and 10. And I am in WhatsApp groups of class groups. And me, alongside many other mothers, are in that group, giving information, support, encouragement. We are there. Many men are not. I think there's 3 dads in the group, certainly for my daughter. And yet there may be so many other dads, but who knows, they might have all their reasons, but there may just be that thing of like, it all gets a bit hectic in there. I don't want to be doing that. And yet all of that is unpaid. Do I want to do that and be there for my children and show up and be across what's going on? Absolutely. I don't want them to miss out. I want to make sure that they've got the right PE kit on the right day and they've got the snack that they want and all of these things. And if if they're being picked up at 1:45 that day, I don't want them to be the last two that are standing because I didn't read the email. I don't want any of that. But what I am saying is I have to, when I'm working, charge really good prices, because so much of my life, through choice, because I chose to have my children, and this seems to be part of the puzzle, but so much of what I'm required to do as a woman, as a mother, I am required to be generous with my time, with my community, with the way that I care for my children. I think people are much more likely to expect a mum to go and have a cup of tea and share everything about her business, rather than they wouldn't interrupt a man at his office because I'm sure you're very busy. We're required to be very open with our marketing. The amount of men that told me when I first became a parent that I just needed to give away more free value. And I was always thinking, but I also need more chargeable hours. That's how I make money in my business. That's what I actually need to do. And so I want you to see how that shows up in your life. Where are you required to be generous? Maybe you're the person that always hosts Christmas, and somehow you've ended up with 15 people. And in order to prepare Christmas and make it the most magical thing, you need to take 3 days off work because you need to batch cook. Because suddenly on a random Thursday night, you might be just being like, kids, we're having pasta and sauce tonight and maybe we'll throw some peas in. You're cooking a dinner for 15 people. And you're doing it on the Friday and the Saturday. Oh, and they're not leaving until Sunday afternoon. So let's have a cooked breakfast before we go. All of these things. I want you to think about your pricing and think about it seriously. And if you have any wobbliness about pricing what you know that you should be charging, I want you to do that inner work. I want you to understand those blocks and stops, like what is holding you back. And I want you to put new reframes, new resets in place with that. Because when I also look at the way that I structure my week, the things that I'm required to do as a parent, and I take that role seriously because I hope that I'm raising 2 children who are going to be great, solid community members, who are going to contribute and all of those great things. I think about that energy that starts in my house and then goes out into the world. In order to have those kind of children who do that, it requires work and it requires time. For us, that's what it requires. So let me know how you think about pricing. Let me know what landed today. I would love to hear it. Lots of love. Come back for the next part.